Ladies and gentlemen, Seahawks and football fans everywhere, a very warm welcome back to the We Talk Seahawks podcast. I hope you're all doing well. It's just another normal week in the life of a Seahawks fan, wasn't it? This season just continues to be absolutely stupid, sometimes for the good reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. I can't quite make up whether this was for the good reason or a bad reason this week. It's a really weird week. We've given up 45 points to the Detroit Lions, and yet we've still won the game. We've scored 48 points. I mean, it's just when has that ever happened in recent years? I can't even remember the last time we put up points like that. This is just a ridiculous game, and we can't wait to talk about it because there's loads to talk about it, good and bad. Absolutely bonkers week, but when isn't it a bonkers week in the world of us Seahawks fans? And joining us, as always, to talk about this bonkers game. It's the ponkers. Blah, I can't get my words out. Positive. Pez, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. You're that excited to speak to me.
I'm that excited. I couldn't get my words out there. I stumbled over it a few times.
That was chaos, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit silly, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I think it's a perfect game. If they could all be like that, it's great because most fans don't have expectations for this season. And what an amazing game to not have expectations for. Don't get me wrong, your blood would boil if we ended up throwing that away, but because we never, 48 points. Amazing. Geno Smith. Oh God.
We're beginning to look rather
I really think we're going to have to try it. Like, if this carries on, we're going to have to send him a personal letter to get his attention to come on the podcast so we can just spend a whole podcast apologizing to him for all our misdemeanors.
There's no use because he's already told he won't write back. We'll write to him. He won't write back. But yeah, I think
Jesus,
we do owe him an apology. Josh, how are you, mate?
Yeah, brilliant. I've never been so happy to be so wrong on a score prediction or a result prediction. It was even though, as we'll get onto it, it was a god awful showing in defence. Offensively, it was an explosion. We scored 48 points, and the last time we played Detroit with our old QB, I'm not mentioning his name because Pez will blow a horn at me, we scored 51. Now, what does that tell you?
I think we've got the better quarterback, haven't we? Geno Smith. Who thought we'd be saying that after 4 weeks? Oh my goodness!
I don't want to run away with. I don't want to run away with that. He's been
good.
But
so James is buying in, isn't he?
James has got full buy-in now.
Oh, I'm buying in.
He's
wearing a Metcalf jersey, but next week got to be a 7 jersey. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Look, I've got my DK Metcalf jersey on, Pez, as you requested.
Fresh from DHK.
Good. Yeah,
I know. Looks a bit dark.
Too much chest. I'm showing too much chest. It feels like this should be behind a paywall or something. I don't like this.
Is that a bush you got coming out?
You've got a chest.
Oh, I've got a chest. It's there.
Is that a couple of hairs on popping out the top there?
Oh,
he's a real boy.
I've been through some stuff. I've got some hairs on my chest, man.
I've been through some stuff in my XL youth jersey.
Hey, if it saves you 40 quid, Pez, you've got to have a perk.
This one time on my paper round, this dog chased me down the street.
Right, we're moving on. Because now you're just taking the right royal piss. Something else that was taking the right royal piss this weekend was our defense. We're going to be certainly talking about that towards the end of the podcast. But we're going to start with the offense as we always do. We'll start with Geno Smith, then we'll head to our running game and the nice inclusion again, spreading the ball around. Our receiving options. We're going to get on to Shane Waldron calling a really good game in my opinion. And a lot of people's opinions as well. I'm seeing in the social media world, and then we're going to go to our defense, and that is where the podcast is inevitably going to fall apart. But it should be, that good old meme of the house burning around us, as we say, this is fine. That's going to be the second half of this podcast, but we're here for it.
Or we could just take the positive Pez approach.
Oh yeah.
Just talk about the negatives without getting too stressed and just find the little tiny positives out of the defense.
If positive Pez can find something positive from that defense this week.
Oh, no, we could all find something positive. And
right. Granted, yes, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, there's a
But
certain
overall,
his code name for any regular listeners is Viagra. So they
Viagra.
know what they know.
Yep. And it was being used this weekend. I'll tell you that. I'd say that nickname was
you were
in full
using
effect.
Viagra.
No,
Why were
the
you using
nickname,
Viagra?
the nickname was in full effect.
Oh,
The
right.
nickname was in full
What, you were
effect.
just in your living room shouting Viagra? I bet
You're
your
the
parents
youngest
were
out of the
listening,
three of
like,
us.
What's the
Yeah,
matter here?
my nana soon left the room. Put it that way.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
I don't want to know why.
That got weird.
Yeah, so stop asking questions. You don't want the answer.
It's the northeast, isn't it? They're a bit strange. For any American listeners, they're a bit funny up that
Bit
way.
weird up there.
Absolute slander. We're moving on. Geno Smith. Let's start with him. First thing,
Can we use his proper title after a game like this?
coin flip king.
Geno fucking Smith.
Oh, right.
It's come back from week 1.
Of course, there's an F word in there when it's Pez. It's Geno effing Smith. I'm not going to read it.
It's appropriate to use it there.
Oh,
as the swear police at this pod, I will happily say that pod Pez. You can repeat it on this pod.
As the granddad of the pod. The granddad.
Yeah, you are the granddad.
Cheers, guys.
Before I read his stat line out, all I'll say is, and I never thought I'd be saying this really. I'm so glad Geno Smith was the conservative quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks for this game, because if he turned the ball over even once and gave the Detroit Lions the edge in the battle of possession, we would have lost that game. So thank you, Mr. Geno Smith, for being the conservative, pretty boring quarterback that you are, but nonetheless effective in that sense. 23 for 30, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Again, we're all being left with egg on our face at this point, and it's just I don't know what to say about this man. He's playing really well. Granted, he's limited, and we all know it, but he's doing what he's told. We keep saying it. He's running this offense. And it's working. He's not playing hero ball, and we're starting to move the ball a little bit better now. Granted, this was the Detroit Lions defense, and it's not a very good defense. And as it's seen, it's 3 points worse than our defense, Pez. But are you on the Geno Smith hype train yet? No, the MVP, comeback of the year, comeback player of the year. No, none of that yet.
No, because even though I've checked the odds of the comeback player of the year and he's not in there.
He's not.
Drew Lock is.
Well, that doesn't make much sense. But
yeah, weird. I don't know what it takes to get yourself
winning awards for riding pine.
Yep. No, I'm not getting on the hype. Like, what a really good game by him. But do you know my fear for all our listeners from the off season of my rants of Geno Smith, and me and Josh are quickly just stabbing our own ship so we can sink together, tied to the mast. But if he can do this against a more elite defense with the pressures, i.e. the Saints who are going to bring competent linebackers, you're going to bring competent linemen, that DK isn't going to be able to sun Lattimore like he did Okudah. Yeah, Jeffrey Okudah, like he did with him, even with safety help, even with everything. I don't think he's going to have that much fun against Lattimore. Like, Justin Jefferson had a day the other week, so we just don't know. But if he can do these things against, like, your Saints defense, the Rams defense, who just bring a hell lot of pressure, and they're elite at it, and he can do it there, then you're gonna sit back and you're gonna, as bad as it sounds, because he had an amazing game, but you're gonna give him his dues against them, because I'm still reserved because that 49ers game. Don't get me wrong. I took note of this in my head. I thought every single rain game this season has been horrendous for some. Like, it's been horrendous. Trevor Lawrence this week fumbled it 4 times, pissing it down. We need to keep that in mind with the rain against that Niners game. But just, you got to keep in your mind to keep yourself balanced and level. It's fun, instant reaction, get overhyped, but don't start getting carried away with yourselves and then get a horrible comeback down to earth next week. Because you got to remember that Niners game and what happened. But the counterbalance to all this is clearly, we all said it in our chat, clearly this was a shame, Waldron. I don't think Pete could have mustered up a 48-point game. He damn near made it as tight as he possibly could at 48 points. Don't get me wrong. The defense is that used to playing prevent. They just started doing it themselves anyway. And then Pete decided to add prevent on top. It's like, no, Pete. They're playing horrendous. Please stop it. Please don't do this to us. But he tried his best. Give hat off to Pete. He tried his bloody best to give us all a heart attack at 48 points up. But yeah, like we're going to get onto probably in more depth, just to bring Waldron into it. If Waldron schemes this game up and things like this for every single game moving forward, and like Josh has said, and I'll give my dues to Josh, if I see it consistently, if this is our offense and Pete has eventually turned around and gone, do you know what? This defense is that bad. You just sort this offense. I really need to focus on that D. Then we could surprise a lot of teams in a shootout. A lot of teams who probably write us off. Like, even though they'll go all 48 points, we're even saying it, but it's against the Lions. So these players, again, with the Saints and the Rams and your Chargers and your Chiefs, they're going to look at it and go, yeah, but it's the fucking Lions, and they let 45 points up. Mahomes is just going to dice them up. And then they might get a little bit of a shock when Geno, he's building in confidence. To bring it back into Geno, without getting too much off track, he's building in confidence. This game, I slagged him for being like a statue in the pocket. I did it when I spoke to Brett. I'd done it on this podcast because he did. But my God, now is he growing in confidence? And I've got to give him credit. He throws a fucking pretty ball.
Mm-hmm.
That thing don't wobble, doesn't like medium
like
to
deep. Like you said, it must be a receiver-friendly ball.
Yeah,
because it's catchable every time, isn't it?
Yeah. Except for that one just overthrown to Tyler, but I think Tyler could have put a bit more of a burn on that and got that. I think it was in Tyler's range. I think he may have just expected it a bit more to him because that's something Russ would have done. But if that's what we're seeing, that's gonna only come as the weeks progress.
Yeah, like you say, he's playing his role to perfection at the minute, really. Josh, like as Pez has alluded to there, it feels like the really serious tests are starting to come up now for Geno Smith. Obviously, we've had that 49ers game, which was, a really tough defense to go against. But then, as like you say, as Pez has alluded to, you've got the Saints coming up, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, Cardinals again, Bucks. I mean, there's some really good defenses coming up for Geno. Are you on this train yet? I'm gonna put the same question to you, or are you being reserved as you look into these next run of fixtures?
So Pez hit the nail on the head, and I've been saying this all season. I've said it about every player who shows flashes. Don't jump on a hype train for the sake of jumping on a hype train, because you'll inevitably let down. You need to have consistency. It needs to be consistently proven. So we had a chat off air about Rashad Penny, and I said at the end of last season he had a fantastic 6 games, but I need to see it consistently. I need to see a full season's worth of those type of results to be like, you know what, I'm on board. Geno, very much the same. As Pez said, we've slandered him. I've said he's been a backup for 3-4 teams now before he landed this job, purely because we traded away our franchise QB and Pete went, well, I ain't starting with a rookie who's not proven. I'll just go with my backup who actually kind of knows the system. I think he's going to, I want to say he's going to struggle, but the thing that I noticed this week was, and it's been well documented, he was calling a lot of the line. So he's got a mastery of this offense. So him and Waldron don't get me wrong, Waldron, and I've said this before, I think he's been doing brilliantly. When we play to his game plan, the ball gets moved around, we change the point of attack, people don't know where we're going, we don't know if it's going to be a run or a pass to whoever, we get the tight ends involved. It looks amazing. All right. I really do see now that they've given a lot more of the playbook to Geno, and this week kind of proved that with the confidence and with the wind behind him, where he does, the rest of the team is really playing. He can do things with that ball. He can move it. He can get us those first. I mean, the first game in franchise history, we did not punt a ball.
Brilliant.
Michael Dixon sat there on the bench next to Drew Lock going, "What's it like on here for so long?"
I like doing nothing, mate.
Yeah.
I like sitting here doing nothing. You can get used to this.
But yeah, I was slowly growing his Aussie mullet. Like I think that was kind of indicative of what was allowed, and the fact, like, was it Penny's first or second run? I think it might have been his second, where we lined up for a pass, and Geno saw something where he audibled at the line of scrimmage, and then he audibled for that run from Penny, who made a fantastic break and burned it through. Like, if that goes on all season, I'll be happy. Even if it's against better defenses, there might be some picks. There might be a few, a few opportunities where coverage was too good. I don't care. But as long as we keep showing that progression, I'm happy with that for our offense, because it's, as much as everyone bangs on about but our old QB. Yes. And his moon balls, and it looks so good, and he could get us out of trouble with his legs. Geno got us out of trouble with his legs. Geno didn't need to throw a moon ball. He just kept the ball moving, which gave us more time in possession. He scored some damn good touchdowns with different players. He got DK in the game. Fair play, didn't get a touchdown, but he got 149 yards.
Yeah,
and one of them, he was literally yards away from a touchdown. Like, you know what? Offensive wise, I'm happy. If it carries on like this, fair play. I can't whinge. I'm looking forward to seeing what it does against a better defense, like Pez says, because the Saints are going to have a much better defense. There's going to be a lot less cover zero. There's going to be a lot less all-man blitzing. They're going to cover the middle of the field more and be able to show him less looks when it comes to his receivers. So this is going to be where we're going to have to try something new, and Walden's going to have to reach into his bag of tricks, and hopefully he might start the running game sooner. We might see big days from Ken Walker, who was the catalyst for our running game. We might see big day for Penny, and then the pathway opens up. But wait and see. But this game's got me quite excited about the rest of the season now. I want to see if we carry on like this, keep the offense going and rolling as it is, and then just fix the fucking defense.
Yes. Yeah, I think with Geno, I think what he's doing really well at this point is he knows he's not playing to be the Seahawks franchise quarterback moving forward. He knows that. But what he is doing, and I think what the Seahawks are going to really love, is that he's going to take the pressure off finding our next franchise quarterback over the next couple of years, because I think that's what he's playing. He's playing to extend his career for the next couple of years, so that even if we go into the draft next year and draft any of these quarterbacks, they don't have to be plugged in and started straight away. They can say, well, do you know what? We've got Geno Smith. He's shown us this year in 2022 that he can run our offense and we can win games and we can be competitive, and therefore we don't need to throw any young rookie quarterbacks straight into the fire. If it takes another 2 or 3 years of Geno running a basic offense, and then all of a sudden you're ready to you've bled in this rookie guy that you've invested in, then that's what Geno's playing for at the minute, and
he's also paying for the bag, or playing for the bag. He wants that little tiny bag. He's not going to get a huge $50 million contract, but if they double what he's on now, he'll go up to 14 mil, still have a starting job in the NFL. 14 mil with add-ons is going to be fantastic for him, because if he puts on like stipulations like his completion percentage, because he's now the and this is something that really baffled me. He is the most accurate quarterback from completion percentage for anyone to have thrown over 250 yards in the first 4 games of the season in NFL history.
It's pretty ridiculous, wasn't it?
Let that sink in, listeners and watchers. Geno Smith holds an NFL record that is not a bad one. Who'd have thunk?
I don't think any of us wanted Drew Lock to be quarterback one anyway, did we? No, that was never the case. Go on, Pez.
It's just Geno in this offense. first in QB, EPA, and CPEO. Second in passing total points. Third in true dropback, no play action, or RPO points earned per pass play. Fifth highest early down pass frequency. Fourth in overall EPA per play. Second in overall success rate. That is
ridiculous, isn't it?
insane. Like, it is insane. And I look at it now and I just think, oh God, that proved me wrong bit's gonna bite me.
Yeah, it's gonna bite us
Be
in the
wrong,
arse.
Pete.
When I
No, not that guy.
Oh, sorry.
Not
when
him
I
yet.
sent you guys that message, what was it, 3:30 this morning, because my toddler woke me up. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I started looking at some of the stats from Geno and this offense, and then I conversely looked at the other side of the ball for the Seahawks and really wish I hadn't. It was just, I was reading them and thinking, am I still asleep? Is this right? And then I reread them and I was thinking, it's all spot on. And just the efficiency in which Geno's playing this game. Just imagine, right? If Russ had, I use his name. If the other guy, had used
That's a warning.
this offense the way that Waldron actually planned it last year, rather than going off on his own tangent, he would have looked 10 times better and probably would have commanded more money. But instead, and Denver fans are finding this out now based on Reddit and Twitter, he doesn't. He plays.
Right, you're going to get the warning in a minute. You're going too far onto a Russ.
Well,
He's gone. Right,
yeah.
He's
I'm
dead.
sorry.
We need to stop comparing him. He doesn't matter anymore.
Right, back onto my original point.
Yeah.
Waldron's calling a sound game, and he's using a QB that isn't elite, which I've said before, and he's making him look superb. Imagine if he'd had an elite QB who was able to make all the throws and more with his game plan. We're winning games and we're scoring 48 points with Geno Smith, just looking efficient. If we had a truly elite QB playing this game, I dread to think what points we'd score week in, week out.
Do you know what I'm loving as well? I'm loving this RPO stuff. The hands off to pennies, rolling out, hitting Corby Parkinson, hitting Will Dissly. Before we get to the running backs, but we're on them now, so we may as well talk about the receiving options. It feels like Will Dissly is the main benefiter of Geno Smith at the minute, because I tell you what, Will Dissly looks like a player, just a completely different player from the one we saw last year. He was predominantly a blocking tight end last year, never really a threat in the receiving game. Now, it feels like we're seeing a rookie Will Dissly again before that injury. This is the kind of players and the kind of ways he was being used in his rookie season. I mean, that touchdown, just that seam up the middle, it's killer throw, killer hands by Dissly. He's always had good hands. Four receptions, 39 yards, 9.8 average from Dissly. Corby Parkinson, another nice little 28-yard game. But that if you'd have told us last year that Corby Parkinson would be looking at Corby Parkinson and being a little bit disappointed that it was only a 28-yard game, I think we'd have all been pretty surprised that we'd be saying that this year, because he was so poorly schemed into the offense his first 2 years here. I'm just loving this tight end inclusage. I'm loving the spread across all the receivers, but DK Metcalf is the main one from this game. 7 receptions, 149 yards, a 21.3 average. And here's a little juicy stat for you all. Here's a little juicy one. That was DK Metcalf's first 100-plus receiving yard game since week 3 of last year against the Minnesota Vikings, week 3 of 2021, where he went for 107 yards. He's not had a 100-plus yard game since in the NFL regular season. He came close, got 98 yards against the Rams just a few weeks later last year, but he's never gone for 100 yards since then. And all of a sudden, 149 yards. Had a great game last week as well, DK Metcalf. I mean, is DK Metcalf going to be on track for another 1,000 yards season? Is that achievable now under Geno Smith from what we've seen, or?
It definitely is. I wanted to speak about DK, just personally him and his play. So it's good you brought him up, really, because something I've noticed through these first four games with DK is something he's never done since he's been with the Seahawks. I don't know whether he's felt like he's never had to, and now he's been forced, not forced, but he's been put into this leadership role, and he understands his situation, so he has to put more effort in. But remember how many times we used to always say about if DK just high pointed that ball, if DK just jumped, why isn't DK jumping at his size? And multiple times in these first four games, I've seen him high pointing the football. His touchdown against the Falcons went up and just high pointed it over the defender's head because he's just that much bigger. That's what we've been wanting from him. That's how many times have we said that about DK's game with the drop balls and high pointing. Now, I can't remember seeing him drop that many passes this year. I honestly think if Geno can keep this rolling and Waldron can have control of the offense and not have Pete meddling with it, and it's just his game plan, I think you're going to see a totally different animal from DK. Because he knows his assignment, he knows his leadership role, and he's out there working on everything. Everything. He was there blocking for Penny on one of his touchdowns. He was there last week blocking for Ken Walker when he went one way and went the other way. DK was his lead block. He just seems like a different focus, different mindset.
Matured.
I think he's one of them. He comes across as one of them characters. Listening to his interviews in the off season and stuff, where he says he kind of admits he's kind of the kid joker. He's not the serious kind of type, because they were he did an interview with someone and he said, "What are you going to bring as a leader?" I'm not going to be the shouty, rah stern guy. I'm the joker. I'll get around my guys, how they know me, and it's almost like give him a challenge and he always rises to that occasion. He's one of them guys, but you leave him where he is, he will only just perform. He's like a world-class racing horse. The world's best racing horses will only ever win by a short margin because they'll only ever do just enough. Your exceptional ones will go and blow them all out of the field. But your world-class ones, and they know they're world-class, will only just do enough to win. They will never get out of that second gear. I enjoy horse racing. I watch it multiple times with some of the greatest horses, and they just do enough. And that is, I think, what DK is. You give him more responsibility, you give him more challenges, and he will always rise and find a way to meet the next level.
That is a cracking little analogy there, Pez.
What I was going to say, Pez, you and your analogies, and you are going up and up and up.
I know, never mind Geno Smith, lifting his game. Pez's analogy game has gone to another level this start.
Thank you guys. Making me blush.
You're more than welcome. Let's get on to these running backs then, because Pez, I'm going to make you blush again. You said at the end of this of the last podcast that this was Rashad Penny's breakout game, and Rashad Penny has indeed gone and had a breakout game. 17 carries. I mean, this is proper RB1 numbers, by the way. 17 carries, 151 yards, 8.9 average, 2 touchdowns. Now, again, similar kind of question that I'm going to put to you in terms of how we've done it with Geno Smith. Are you going to be getting carried away off the back of this performance from Rashad Penny because it was against the Detroit Lions defense, or is this the kind of numbers that you're now going to expect to see from Rashad Penny going forward?
Do you want to go first, Josh? Because I'm going to gush a little bit, so I'll let you get your pessimism out of the way.
My pessimism. Pessimistic.
I'll tell you what.
That's the next one.
Oh, he's on another level.
We've got positive Pez and then the pessimist. No, I'm. You know what? I'll do a little bit of gushing, and then I'll do what I usually do and just chuck in some realism and logic. So This was a great game for him. The runs he made were fantastic. I'm not going to take away from Ken Walker because he started that ball rolling. Without him, it wouldn't have opened up as much. And then it's literally Ken, go do some bits, absolutely fine. And then 8 carries, 29 yards. Not lighting up the world, but it showed we had the impetus to run. And that got him guessing, which then allowed Geno to throw. And then we chucked Penny in. And Penny was just, I don't get how he makes so much yardage. Even when he's ploughing through a pile, the fact that there must have been a light bulb moment last year where he went, I'm quite a big dude. Like, if I ran full pelt into someone, I am going to get through them. It's like, was it Marshawn Lynch's phrase? If you run through a mother's face enough, they're not going to want to carry on tackling you. And I think that's kind of what we're getting from Penny now. He's just running through and running past people. I can't take it away from him. It was brilliant. It's 2 touchdown runs. Chef's kiss. But again, I will hark back to what I said earlier in the pod. I will wait and see before I gush and run out and buy a Penny jersey. Because at the end of the day, if he plays too well and someone else tries to sign him, we're not going to pay him loads of money because that's just what Seattle does. And we've got Ken Walker in the back. But also, I want to see it all season. This is game 4, and it's his first 100-yard game. I want to see him do it consistently. I want 100-plus games every week. I want to see him scoring tutties for fun. I don't want to come back next week and be like, Rashad was really quiet, and then the next week was really quiet. Then the week after that was like, oh my God, he went off. Brilliant. That is inconsistency at its finest. Not what you need. Show me consistency, and I will buy on. I will buy a ticket aboard the Rashad Penny train, and Pez, I will come and sit next to you.
Choo choo. Pez, take over because you're on the train.
So a bit of pushback on your consistency with the running backs. Name a top running back who is actually consistent at the moment.
No one has been this season. Absolutely no one's been this season. That's the thing. So last season you had like Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb to a degree, Mixon not so much. They were more consistent last season. This season, no one has been. It's been a really weird season for running backs in the NFL. Literally no one's been consistent. If you look at fantasy, and pretty much every single fantasy league I've got one of the different top 6 running backs in one of my teams. And none of them have scored high consistently. No. It's been 1 week, amazing. Next week, shithouse. 1 week, middling. Next week, or this week, brilliant for 2 of them. And then Javonte Williams just goes and gets injured. So no one has been this week or this year. So if Rashad can show it consistently, I'm happy with that. A, because he's on my fantasy team, and B, because he's going to help the Seahawks win. In fact, no, flip those. A, he's going to help the Seahawks win, and B, because he's on one of my fantasy teams. So yeah, no one's been consistent, Pez. I'm with you on that one.
Exactly, and in fantasy, if you look through fantasy eyes, it's really Nick Chubb. Yeah, consistent all the way through, kind of thing. But back onto my absolute gush fest of the running backs. Do you know what it is for me? It's not the stats. It's how I am very confident once this run game and my dog gets out of this kitchen.
Is he a Rashad Penny fan? Maybe that's why he's come in. Maybe that's why he's come in.
1 minute.
YouTube watchers, we're about to go meet Pez's dog.
Go on.
We're off on a trek.
Oh, he's put us in for. Oh no, he hasn't.
He's a mighty large one. Look at that valiant steed. You could ride it into battle if you were a borrower.
Go on. Yeah, so it's not the stats for me. Like, the stats don't excite me. Like, I'm not getting carried away with the stats in this game. The stats were amazing. Yeah, wicked. But how I'm confident Rashad Penny is going to be consistent with this, and why he is in the best possible position to not re-injure. And people have sort of been saying it on Twitter, like I said to Josh in that pod, and he ripped my head off about his injury proneness. People start coming round to what I was trying to say in that podcast. One major injury doesn't make him injury prone, and it doesn't make him a bust. because he's picked up from where he left off last year for me. Stats might not have shown it because they've not really got their own game in yet. But what he has done is this game is the perfect way to sum up the first 4 weeks for him. His running has been brilliant when he's been given the chance. What have we said about Rashard Penny? What have more like I'll use Mike Dugard because it was on his podcast when he said Rashard Penny isn't a backup. Rashard Penny is a number one guy. He needs the touches. He might not burst straight away, but you get him rolling and then he'll go off. Literally, Mike Dugard, hat off to you, because this game, he probably doesn't even remember saying it, but this game proved his point to a T. Rashard Penny started off some decent runs, started getting bottled up, like Josh said. Then they brought Ken in, and he properly got the game rolling then. And then once he got loosened it up, they then sent the hammer in, and Penny went to town on him.
I think just to add to that as well. Sorry, Ken Walker. The thing that I've noticed that he brings is that width. He's got that speed to get around the edge to open up that D line. But they also did they use D. Eskridge on a jet sweep as well because he got 6 yards, and that's just trying to create that width to give us space on the inside for someone like Penny, which it's working for him, man.
So that's I would literally. You would transition.
Sorry.
You transitioned in because I was going to get on to Ken then. So to my point of Rashard Penny is in the perfect situation because his RB2 is the perfect guy for him. Them two, Ken's got more wiggle. He's got more toe in the dirt twist. But Penny showed it a couple of times today. And I think what we're seeing now out of Penny is we're seeing I think it's the perfect start for Rashard Penny. 6 games last year, but then don't forget in the offseason he had a few hamstrings, he had a few quad problems, and we're like, ooh, are we seeing it already? Is he unraveling? This is the perfect way, and it will be a genius stroke is if they don't introduce the run game till later on. Properly get it rolling later into the season, because what we're seeing from Rashard Penny now, in one of his touchdown runs, I think it was, he did a left foot toe in straight out to the right, like dummy the defender and went out. You've not seen that from Rashard Penny since his major injury when he had that big blow up game. Or was it against the Vikings? For him to start doing things like that again, like people should be really excited for that. I think don't look at the stats. Don't get concerned about, but he's not putting big numbers up. Look at how he's running. Look at how he's running. Look at how he's rolling. And Ken is the perfect guy for that. Because they're similar. And I can guarantee they probably feed off their energy with each other. Kent is like a ball of energy, and that man is ready to break it to the house anytime soon. He nearly did it a couple of times. I love watching him run the football.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Man.
Because you're just desperate for him to get that TD, aren't you? Every time he touches the ball, you're like...
This is the thing, Josh. We don't need to be desperate. It is coming. I'm literally guarantee everyone who listens, he's ripping one to the house in the very near future. You
nearly said next game then, didn't you? And then you realised what the defence was.
No, but fuck it. Next game he could do. Like, you get DK and Tyler to start worrying him deep, hanging off, 2 highs, leave the room open. He hits his holes so hard. His change of gear, I said it in the preseason, his change of gear is so good to watch. I love watching running backs. And I'm nowhere near a technical guy with it. I just fucking love watching him. And I love watching him. Like, you saw it in this Lions game. He's just ready to rip. He's ready to rip. And do you know what? You brought D. Eskridge up before. I want to bring him up. And like Josh said, what the fuck? But do you know what? He gets the hit for the coaching staff not getting him involved, because that jet sweep he had, he looked dangerous. That's looked dangerous.
He was brought in for, though. When Waldron had his when Waldron was brought in, it was like, well, what do we need to make your plan succeed? That is the reason D. Eskridge was in. So the first game D. Eskridge played, one of the first plays that they gave him was a jet sweep, and then the injuries happened. Right. So that's what he's in there for, to open up that field and to try and make those yards on the outside. That's what he's there. I mean, I wrote in my notes, I said to you before, what is the point in Eskridge? But I need to amend that to what was the point in the Eskridge pick if you're not going to use him? He's shown that he had 16 yards in total, 6 rushing, 10 receiving. So he can catch a ball, he can rush. He's there as this piece within the offense. Use him more. But you picked him up in the second because they obviously valued him at that pick. Use him.
So with what you said, my thinking whilst you're speaking, what do you two reckon is a bit like what I said about Rashard Penny? Do you know how? What if the plan is? What if genuinely the plan is we got Geno Smith? Like no one's really expecting anything of us. Why burn Rashard Penny to the ground and injure him when we can use him later? What if they're doing the same thing with Eskridge? He's had so many little niggling injuries, get his confidence up, bring him in bit by bit by bit. And then, do you know, like them games, like we're saying with the Saints next week, well, they kind of know what Geno can do. Well, here you are. This is something you've not seen yet. And then they use a lot of Eskridge.
I'd be happy with that. I mean, you look at what receivers this week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 10 last week, 8 this week. That is a bloody good spread. I'm happy with that. If we can get Eskridge in more, I just want, and again, this is something that I always say to people, whether it be guys sport, just people, work, whatever, prove it to me. If they can have Eskridge in there and he starts to prove his worth for his draft pick, for all the hype that was surrounding him, for the fact Waldron wanted him at that pick, I'll be happy. At the moment, he's again not proved it to me, but I would happily eat my words from previous pods just to see him fly.
This is the confusing thing for me. This is the confusing thing for me before we leave the offense. You're right that this was Shane Waldron's pick. You know, if it was Pete's pick, it would have probably been Creed Humphrey, or it would have probably been a cornerback or someone. But this was Shane Waldron's pick. And what we're also saying in this podcast, and what everyone is saying, is that this feels like, and it looks like, that it is Shane Waldron calling the offense now, and he's still not scheming him into. So it's his player, and it's now his offense, and he's still not getting involved. So that's where it's confusing to me.
One thing of note. So this game, Eskridge got a reception. Goodwin didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that Eskridge is slowly overtaking him?
So was that the plan?
Like Pez said.
Was that the plan the whole
bringing
time?
him back in?
Yeah, using Goodwin in his role, and then when they're confident, without pushing him. Because one thing I've noticed about Pete in these last couple of years is he's very, very, very cautious about pushing his players now. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like he wants them to be 100%. Like Trey Brown, it's like, yeah, he's nearly there, he's nearly there, he's nearly there. And it's just like, stop telling us lies. Just be truthful. No, I want to wait until I am confident he's 100%, so I don't re-injure this player. Do you know, that kind of thing? And it will, like Josh said, it would make sense that's why Goodwin made the roster, because they're similar guys, similar cats. The experience, everything that Goodwin brings to just teach Eskridge, and then Eskridge, the younger guy, can then take over, because the passes, the catches, the runs, everything he did, he looked explosive. So like Josh said, it isn't on him. It's like, coaches, what the fuck are you doing with him? Pull your head out your ass and get him involved.
Yeah, but then again, we're in a season that doesn't really matter. No one's anticipating us winning. No point rushing someone back. Get him used to the game plan. Get him in there, and then by the end of the season, hopefully he's having some big plays.
Do you need to use him when you've been having the success you're having? You might not be winning every game, but you're having success at the moment, and if
always
you can
good to have another weapon, mate.
Exactly, hidden weapon as well.
Yeah, I like to say this is the experimental year. If we can't experiment and get Eskridge involved in the offense this year, then we never are really. That's just my opinion anyway. Before we leave the offense and go to the defense, 2 little shout outs. Seahawks offensive line, 4 games in, 4 games not allowing a sack in the first half. of games. So shout out to the offensive line as well. And as we keep shouting them out on this podcast as well, these two rookies on the perimeter, rookie offensive tackles per PFF, their pass block grades this season among all rookie offensive tackles. Abraham Lucas, top of the list, number 1 out of the rookies in 68.5 pass block grade. Charles Cross coming in at 4th with a 59.4. That's ahead of Ike Mekonu at 51.2. That's ahead of
Who's
Evan
looked
Neal,
awful.
who's looked awful. That's ahead of Evan Neal, who's on a 50. I mean, again, it's just reinforcing our belief that I think we've found potentially the future on the perimeter of the offensive line. As we've said, the interior needs some work as well, but those two are they're going to be here in Seattle for a long time. I think that's safe to say. Before we get on to the defense, though, a quick shout out and a quick message from our friend over at the Take 12 podcast, Mr. Brett Davin. As I'm sure you know by now, he and Lofa Tupu, they're running a very exclusive package.
A package offer.
A package offer.
Multiple packages.
Multiple packages.
They're offering their package to the customer.
Do you know what that sounded like then? That sounded like
Exactly.
It sounded like Pez in a classroom trying to impress the teacher with an answer that someone else is going. You know what I mean?
I was trying to make it sound wrong. That's what I was trying to make it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I took that as an innuendo. I was like, which package?
Thank you, Josh.
We're talking Brett,
Thank you,
Brett's
Josh.
or loafers? Like, because
you get to choose.
I don't want to hazard a guess which one's the bigger package, but
it's a big package. We've absolutely ruined their advert here.
Yeah.
They're running a fantastic trip to Munich for the Seahawks and Buccaneers game later this November. He's going to give you some details on this trip that involves some very special guests involved in this trip that you'll be meeting and staying with, and I'll let him explain a little bit more.
Hey, Seahawk fans, it's Brett Davern from the Take 12 podcast, here to let you guys know about our trip to Germany. Our podcast, the Take 12 podcast, is going to Germany for the Munich game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have tickets to the game that we are selling as part of our travel packages, which also include 3 nights in a hotel in Munich, and also a fantasy-style flag football game where you get to play football with 6 Seahawks legends who will also be on the ground in Munich. It's going to be Lofa Tupu, KJ Wright, Leroy Hill, David Hawthorne, Sean Locklear, and Matt McCoy. And also a few other Seahawks legends are checking their schedules, so we'll update that if it changes. But we're doing dinners out. We're doing parties. We're giving you guys gift packages and baskets. We're having custom flag football jerseys for that game. And like I said, we have the actual tickets to the actual game on Sunday, which rounds out our trip. We also have travel packages that don't even include the hotel. So if you already live in Europe, if you're already planning on being in Munich, but you're looking for things to do, if you want to play in a flag football game with Seahawks legends, just come do that. If you already have hotel accommodations, we have the package without the hotel also. All of the information is at 12sinmunich.com. That's 12S in Munich. So check it out, and I hope to see all of you in Munich.
And as always, if you are interested in joining Brett and his friends on that trip, and who knows, maybe even us as well, we'll see what happens, then go to 12sinmunich.com and head to the checkout once you've confirmed what package you want to be on, and use code WeTalk12 at the checkout for a 12% discount on your entire package, the entire cost of your package. And you'd be helping out the podcast massively if you choose to do so.
That's a decent deal.
Decent deal. Lucky numbers, 12. I mean, what's not to love? Maybe seeing Pez line up at tight end in flag football. That you probably won't love seeing that. But hey ho, that's part of the package. Right, let's get to this defense.
I get to see my package after a few beers.
Pez, man. You just never mind me ruining your positive Pez segment. Get out of my transitions.
Do you know how many times you've said to me it's always me who brings down the tone of this pod with dirty innuendos, and you don't even bring out an innuendo. You're just flat out saying to people, "Well, maybe I'll get my kecks off." You never know.
No filter.
Might sell tickets. We don't know.
No, you've stopped anyone.
Might sell tickets on Spotify listeners, maybe not YouTube watchers.
Yes. Well done, Pez. Nobody's going to go and buy tickets now. But hey, if that's something that interests you, then please do go and use code WeTalk12 at the checkout for that package. Right, let's get to the defense then, because this is. Oh, I tell you what. Well, there were a lot of packages on defense in this Detroit game. Other than one or two who I will gush over, and I'm sure Pez will as well. I'm sure we all will. But for the most part, this is just a polar opposite of gushing over the offense. I mean, there's some people in for a right telling off here over the next sort of segment that we're going to talk about this for. The first one that comes to mind, and the one who needs to go to the headmaster's office straight away, is Cody Barton. I give up. I mean, look, I don't hate the guy. I've got nothing against the guy, but as we've said, not exclusively on this podcast, but we have said it on this podcast for a little while now, Cody Barton is not a starter for the Seattle Seahawks in their long-term play. He's just not. Go and watch Jared Goff's rushing touchdown from the Detroit game, and I'll edit the clip into this YouTube form of our podcast. So if you're on YouTube, you can see it. I have no words. I mean, it's not even just his pass coverage that is awful. That TJ Hawkinson play. I mean, the effort level on that play from Cody Barton to just try and little palm him out of bounds. It's
one hand palm into touch.
He put more effort sprinting after him, what would have knackered him out more than actually pushing him out. And
do you know what it is as well? It's his player recognition. If you play Madden, you'll know that phrase, player recognition. I don't have Madden 23, but if Cody
You're not missing out.
No, I probably not. No, it's just the worst game every year. But Cody Barton, if his player recognition grade, a stat, is anything over 29, right, then I'm gonna write to Madden and EA Sports, tell them to watch the first 4 games of this season and tell me how it's even worth 20, because he just looks completely lost out there in pass coverage. Don't get me wrong, he can stuff the odd tackler and the odd runner here and there against the running game, but he just looks completely lost out there. And there's a name that I want to bring up and see what kind of reaction it gets. But Vi Jones, preseason, played really well, played excellently against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now we haven't seen him. Please tell me what Vi Jones could not come in and play any worse than Cody Barton. He deserves his chance from the way he played in preseason. Play him. It is evident that Cody Barton is he's just not the answer at inside linebacker. So just try anything. See that Pete always stresses about next man up, always competition. No player's position is safe. If you're not playing well, there's always guys coming up. If you're going to stand by that, if that philosophy is correct, Cody Barton needs to be benched next week. There's no way that you play like that and deserve to keep your spot in the starting lineup. Surely
it's not just the fact that he has been dog shit. It's the fact that his awful play is affecting his middle linebacker partner. So he is making Jordan Brooks look awful because JB has now got to focus on. And Pez, we've all said it. I said it last pod. Brooks is looking bad because he's got too much shit to do. He's a third-year player who's now the defensive signal caller. He is the number 1 middle linebacker. And he's effectively number 1/2 because not only has he got to do his job, he's literally got to look to his right and go, oh, God, what is Cody going to fuck up on now? And then he's got to try and cover that. Whether it's Cody rushing the line and tackling a ghost and letting someone stroll past him, or it's Cody wandering off downfield, having spotted some random butterfly floating towards the crowd rather than the ball, and then JB's got to go, oh my God, I need to try and get there too, but what do I do about my man? It's the impact on one player who is that inefficient has an impact on all of them around him. So having a middle linebacker like that, if you're playing a 3-4 look and your outside linebackers are lined up in coverage, the linebacker next to him on the outside also has to think, if they're going to throw it in the middle to a wide receiver on a slant or a tight end running through there, they're going to be like, I've got my wide receiver on the outside, but what's going to happen there? It just impacts everyone. Inefficiency like that is inexcusable at professional level. I'm sorry. I tried to be really impartial, but the more and more I watch him, and I was really rooting for him this season, the more and more I am in the same mindset as you two that he is not a starter in this league. Chuck him in for some impact package where all you've got to do is say, Cody, just go and rush the line, mate. Don't worry about anything else. Just try and get to the quarterback. Fine. If it's a matter of, right, Cody, you're an every down linebacker. Your job now is to rush, to prevent the run, to try and cover everything. He just has, it's like he's a brain fart. There's so much going on in his brain. He has a meltdown and doesn't know what to do. Sorry to get cut in there, but it's annoyed that attempted push pass broke me on Sunday. You know how much I hate shite tackling, and that genuinely had me jump off my sofa and nearly punch my TV.
Yeah,
awful.
You said it. You said you hit the nail on the head with what I was thinking, Josh. I was going to say because I was going to mention about the whole Jordan Brooks element in him playing so poor, but it's like for long-term listeners, me and James, from the first year we started this podcast, we were in agreement about Cody Barton. We said it this off-season, whereas Josh said, he said he hoped he did good things, but me and James, we were still on the same thing. We were like, he is not an every down linebacker.
No.
He never has done. He always unravels the more he plays. And the quicker they realise that and find something or someone to start alleviating from his thing, it's going to help it all. Because you can only question it as well. If the middle falls apart, like the secondary, surely everything just falls to pieces. Like Josh said, with Jordan Brooks, for people who start trying to blame anyone else, really, if you look at it, Jordan Brooks looked really good last year because he had Bobby Wagner next to him. Right? That's why everyone was like, oh, he's Bobby's replacement because he looked really good. So before anyone then turns around and goes, oh, it was Bobby who made him look good. Did Bobby play so poor last year because he was helping Jordan out so much with his assignments? But then you've got to go back to when Bobby first came in the league. And who did he have next to him? KJ Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Who is his outside line? Was it Cliff Averill?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, in the Sam and things like that.
Yeah.
Then look at that team. He had a solid unit around him, so he didn't need to overthink himself. Signal call.
Just do your job.
Do his job and not overthink it.
That is one of the big messages that you get from any sort of coach is just do your job. I coach my under 17s and 18s in rugby. This is your job. Just do your job and everything else around you will come into place. In the NFL, because it's so position specific as well in what your task is, they just say, do your job. Defense is built from the D-line back. Anyone with a good D-line, good edge rushers, okay, it makes it easier on the linebackers, makes it easier on the cornerbacks and the safeties. All right. At the moment, our defensive front isn't great. We had one sack against Jared Goff, which just awful. All right. But then once we get past how bad that's been, and don't get me wrong, people like Al Woods, Q Jeff, I will always love Q Jeff. I think he's brilliant. His cleats are on point, right? And his play's all right. But Shelby Harris really made a difference. But once you get past that, which hasn't been super effective, our edge rushing hasn't been super effective, bar and Chenna and Wosu, then you get to our middle linebackers. They've been completely ineffective, which then puts more pressure on the safeties, bearing in mind we're missing the linchpin of what this defense should be in Jamal Adams. We've got a rookie corner and we've got a inconsistent corner in Mike Jackson. And God knows what's happened to Sidney Jones. You know, the whole thing starts mounting up, and that is tantamount to a whole shitty defensive play this season. But you should have that D-line creating pressure, and then the linebackers there to stop anything over the middle. But people are they're pissing on us in the middle because they can't do anything. It's so infuriating to watch.
I think it's a really good point, this, for people to take into mind when you're evaluating Jordan Brooks specifically this year so far in terms of the pass coverage deficiencies. Could you imagine, because this is a guy who's still on his rookie contract, who since he's came into the league has known only anything but playing next to a Hall of Fame player in Bobby Wagner. Can you imagine having that being taken away from you, being asked to go and be the captain, go and be the leader of that middle of the defense, and have to have Cody Barton next to you? I mean,
it's a hell of a drop, isn't it?
It's a hell of a drop. It's like that meme of, when you want to go outside and play outside with your mates and your mum tells you to bring your little brother with you, and then he has to play on the same team as you. Do you know what I mean? But you just do it because do you get what I'm saying? It's like that. So,
great analogy. Great analogy.
Thank you, Pez. That means a lot coming from you this year. Could you just take that into consideration, that Jordan Brooks is having to, like you say, he's having to account for Cody Barton's inefficiencies alongside him, and he's had a Hall of Fame player taken away from him. That's all he's ever known, and now all of a sudden it's just been like, right, go on then, Jordan, go out there, play with that C on your chest effectively, be a captain of this defense, lead that linebacker group with Cody Barton next to you. No KJ Wright, no Bobby Wagner, no stars like that. It is going to take time for Jordan Brooks to be able to get comfortable in that, and it may only change until Cody Barton is out of the starting lineup, unfortunately. But it's
don't get me wrong, I don't want to slander him too much as a rotational piece, as what I call a bullet. In whenever I coach people, you have like the coach is the gun who just points it, and you have a player who's just a bullet, a blunt object who goes and does that one thing they're specified to do. That he's absolutely fine at. Go and rush the passer, hit that gap. Fine, I can deal with that. But an every down linebacker, I feel bad because he's probably a really nice guy, and this is one thing I want to put out there to everyone. This isn't us slandering the person. This is sports hate.
Yeah.
This is just the frustration we have with the play. Not the guy might be awesome, probably does loads for charity and everything like that. Fine, but he's inefficient as a player, and that's one thing that fans will not put up with. Because we watch and support these teams. We pay X amount of money for jerseys from China, like James has got. For the
top quality
hats that I've got, everything else, Pez with pretty much every bit of Seahawks gear you see in every single pod. We pay for that. We pay for tickets. Some of us pay to fly out there. We don't want to be subjected to substandard play from our team. So I can only imagine the people like the Dolphins and their fans must have hated life when they were tanking for Tua, because that's not what we expect from our team. We're a winning franchise. In the last 10 years, we have not lost. We've had like one substandard season. We expect to win, and we expect people that are not meeting the standard that we expect as fans, and we would hope the coaching staff and GMs expect to be held accountable. They need to be held accountable for substandard performances which affect the rest of the team. Now, I look at it, and we're all armchair coaches. We've never played the game, but from a coaching standpoint myself, or even a manager's standpoint for work, if you see one weak link, you have to then address it, and you have to do something about it, whether it's a matter of you transition them to something else, because Cody Barton was a safety, I believe, to start with, and then he's transitioned into linebacker. So you have to look at his strengths, what he does, where he can be moved, where he's going to be more efficient, and what you can do converse to that. But at the moment, it's just keep putting him in there. We said he's going to be a star next Jordan Brooks. Just keep doing it. It's that, and I've said it before, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. They've done the same thing for 4 games this season, and they're expecting him to become a superstar, and it's not going to happen. It's just not.
And I'm going to bring this guy in now, because I think this will lead in well. If Jamal Adams hadn't have gone down in week 1, we'd mentioned it in our pre-season hot takes and stuff like that. Could Jamal Adams have moved into this linebacker spot and taken this off Cody? And then if he had, And even if he hadn't, even if Jamal was still on the field, how much of an impact would he be having on this defense?
Personally, I've had a few chats with a few different people on Twitter, and everyone's under consensus that Clint Hurt. One thing you kind of can't knock about this defense is the aggression they're running around. They're running around with aggression, and that's something Clint Hurt's bringing back. That's something this defense has missed. It's so frustrating because it's like one year it's this, next year it's that. And then it's like the one thing we've all been wanting is aggression. They've got the aggression and then dropped in everything else. Now, I personally believe if people buy into the whole Eskridge was the reason why our offense fell apart at the start of last year, Jamal Adams is the reason why this defense is falling apart.
I'm going to high five you across the screen right now. Yes, sir.
because the usage of Jamal Adams in that first game, you saw it. You saw it all there. You saw what was it? His first year he came 10 sacks or something. You saw 10 sacks.
Nine and a half. It's a league record.
You saw that guy back on the line, roaming around, dangerous as anything. A bit like the safety we've missed, a bit like your Earl Thomas. Your Earl Thomas was always that kind of small, stocky, and he'd roam around low, and he's like just a little hunter, surfacing around. And honestly, I think if Jamal didn't go down, Clint Hurt would look like a genius right now because his defense would be humming. Like I spoke to various different fans and things on Twitter, people like talking about it, and they all say the consensus: this team is missing Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Who is it? I saw a stat whilst we're on the safeties. Josh Jones, is that? Yeah, Josh Jones. His missed tackle percentage or something like that is like 31.8. Jamal Adams, that's this year. Jamal Adams through his whole career, something like 10.8.
Wow.
The man doesn't miss. So you look at all them big breaking runs today. Jamal's there. They don't get past half.
Mm-hmm.
Hockenson doesn't go 81 yards because Jamal would have steamed over and like took his head off.
Goff don't mention that play.
Goff would have been in concussion protocol. Like we're missing that kind of guy. I
think we've like, if I just hark on to like, so one of our Twitter followers, he replied to one of my tweets last week. I was asking about questions. This is a sort of shout out to, I hope I pronounce it right, Sai Wachira. He just said, which changes and improvements are needed to save the season? It's quite simple. Bin Cody Barton, all right, and you can't bring back Jamal Adams, but you need to do something like defense to try and incorporate someone like Ryan Neal to have more of those looks. And it seems like a really simple fix to us, but there must be a reason why they're not doing it. Because if we can see it, then surely they can see it too. Because Pete, as for a defensive guru, must be looking at his defense and every time going, "It's fucking Barton again. Why can't he shoot a gap? Why can't he pick up anyone else running through the A gap? Why can't he just tackle someone out of touch? You know, where's his coverage? You know, that is the biggest thing for me. Fix the middle of that field, and I think they've already started rotating the D line or the edge rushers anyway. Marfay's playing a lot more.
Yeah.
For Taylor, fix those things, and the rest of it will come together. Because the cornerbacks, as this will be a nice transition for you, James, because I know you want to talk about your man, your little blue pill. The cornerbacks are actually playing all right. Mike Jackson, I think, has had a bit of a drop off recently, but then I think this is time where you bring Sidney Jones back in.
So, just before we quickly transition, my feeling on it is, I think people, because of Jamal and how his season, like his years have gone in Seattle, I think they underestimate his value as a player overall, away from his production. And the big shoes to fill, and they do not have the depth. We spoke about this in the preseason. We spoke about it more. They just don't have the depth. Josh Jones looks really good, and he's just like a Cody Barton. He's just fallen apart. He's just fallen apart as the season's gone on, And so then Quandre's effectively doing what Jordan Brooks is doing. He's playing his role and another role. So you're second guessing yourself. You're not playing free. You're not playing. I know everyone, like, I get annoyed everyone links back to the Legion of Boom. But really, in these situations, you can compare them to Legion of Boom. Not saying, oh, it reminds me of them. Just compare it to their setup compared to the setup we've got now. Cam and Earl, they were so successful as players because they could trust each other to get a job done. They didn't have to second guess each other. They didn't have to mess anything up. If one did mess an assignment up, they got to the sideline and like, yes, okay, we are at the same ability. So I don't need to worry about that play. We'll just crack on. Whereas Quandre must be really doubting the guy next to him now, because if he had Jamal,
competency. Yeah, and that's it. If you all know from working, James, I'm not talking to you because you're a smelly student, but Pez, you will know from working, right? And I'm knowing when this goes out on YouTube, I'm pointing up to your my screen and you're probably over here. So Pez, right? When you're working, you can turn up to a shift, and you will see your co-worker and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Because sometimes you'll turn up and be like, I'm going to have to carry this, because if the work doesn't get done because that person's inept, we're both getting bollocked. Whereas sometimes if you turn up and you've got like your work bestie, or you're someone that you're working with that you know is a decent worker, you're like, mega, my job is easier because we will both shoulder this load and we will both do it to a decent standard. It's amazing what it does. Like, I spent years as a labourer, and the amount of times we'd get a part-time labourer in who was absolutely awful. By the end of the day, I'd be sweating my bits off because I've done my work and their work. And then I'd look at them and they'd be there smoking a fag. Like, mate, you look really tired. And I'd be like, of course I'm tired. You've done nothing. It's the exact same principle. And it goes throughout everything. Friendships, sport, work. If you are next to someone who is inept at their job or their role in life, you're shouldering their burden as well.
Yep.
There you go. A bit of life advice for people there as well. If you've got people in your life like that, bin them off.
True. Sorry, I've been jelly snaked here as we transition. I'm just snacking on my jelly snake. That was good timing. Let's get to these cornerbacks then, as I pop my jelly snake instead of my blue pill.
Let's have some. Let's have some positives.
Just let James gush. Let's let James.
Oh
gush
no, yeah. James has hardly
minutes.
spoke this podcast. Me and you just
know,
literally just
rambled.
Now's
just
my
me and
turn.
you now, brother.
Now it's my turn because Tariq Woolen. That man is going to be an all-pro. I'm telling you, he is absolutely special. Yet again, just watch the interception, the level of IQ, tracking Hawkinson, jumping in front of him, taking it to the house, the agility to just skip past Goff. I think it was at the end. Was it Goff? Or I don't care who it was. It probably was Goff. Into the end zone. He's just look. There's a reason why I don't need blue pills. It's that man. It's that man. He's Viagra. He just gets me excited, and he should be getting all of you excited, because that man, and Kobe Bryant as well, but specifically that man, as I tried desperately to finish this jelly snake, that man is going to be the future of this Seahawks cornerback group. He's going to be the next Richard Sherman. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Richard Sherman, but if there's anyone to fill Richard Sherman's boots,
he's going to be better.
He's going to be better. Pez has said it. That wasn't me. Don't look at me. That was Pez.
Can I just go off topic a little bit? For our American listeners or any other listeners, James is eating gummy sweet snakes, not like jellied snakes, not like jellied eels, in case people think that we're even weirder over in the UK for what we eat.
Oh no, these are jelly
sweet snakes.
Oh, these are proper
jellied
snakes.
Sweet snakes.
Yeah,
not jellied snakes.
This is from. I've got these exclusively from the I'm a Celebrity trial package for this year.
You're a Billy bullshit, mate.
Hey, that's not the name of the sweets.
The best thing is they probably don't know what I'm a Celebrity is. You big tit.
They're not having it in America.
I don't think so, mate. No.
Oh well.
I don't know. They've got The Only Way is Essex.
Right, but anyway, back onto these.
Yeah,
back
to
onto
football.
these. Back onto these corners. Do you know? To add into your Tariq Woolen, do you know what I find very fascinating about him? In 4 game weeks, he's not just sticking to his assignments anymore. He's now tracking tight ends and do like in my little technical knowledge, I think that's quite an advanced thing to be able to do, to start tracking the middle of the field, coming out from the outside, and you're starting to move in, and you're starting to like read the play, see what's happening. Like I watched it a couple of times because Hawkinson did not have the awareness of Hawkinson. He's like, man, I'm 100 odd yards. I've had a couple of I don't give a shit about this ball. And then next minute, the flash comes past him. He's like, oh, where did he come from?
Honestly.
Like,
Look, watch the close up on Hawkinson's face.
yeah.
When you see Woolen just go across and he just goes,
His eyes go,
whoa!
what?
And then just watch it. That was the second fastest run time out of any. I don't know if it was anyone or any DB in the NFL this year.
Because he was the fastest last week with the interception. No.
Yeah.
He was the fastest one of the other weeks as well.
The guy is he's an absolute mutant. He likes to be called, is it Reek the Freak? So they've all called him Avatar, and they've started I think Quandre called him Cheat Code, but Reek the Freak is so accurate. Like that man. Shout out to Tariq as well for giving us a like on Insta.
Yeah,
good boy. Didn't even like the good post we put up. But yeah, it's just I see why James gets so excited every time he sees him play, because the possibility of him just jumping off for a big play is there all the time. His length, his speed, he's getting his positional awareness now. Like Pez just said, tracking the middle of the field with a tight end and realizing when to kick it up a gear to intercept the ball that he could see was coming. Because if you watch his eyes are pretty much constantly on Goff, waiting to see what he does. And as soon as that ball comes, he just kicks it up into 6th gear, gets right in front of it, and then just burns it, absolute wheels down that sideline. And then, just to add insult to injury, sidesteps Goff just on the inside.
As if I couldn't love him anymore. I mean, this guy is playing this game. He's not a rookie. I'm sorry, this guy's not a rookie. He is already playing this game with an IQ of a 7-year veteran cornerback. He just looks the amount of money that I'm going to go through over the next however many years he's here on new underpants, because that man.
My God.
I'm telling you, stop. If we ever want to get Tariq Woolen on this show, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to listen back to some and see what they've been saying, and he hears this, he is not going to come near us with a barge pole.
He is, because I'm
he's
going to sort him out.
You're going to verbally molest him.
I don't want to know how you're going to sort him out. I really don't want to know how you're going to sort him out. Please don't let me expand.
Finish. No, I am going to expand because it looks bad on me now. I'm going to sort him out with a pair of Tariq Woolen Viagra boxes, officially like merchant. Like I'm gonna, if he ever comes on,
I can get those designed and printed for you. Just FYI.
There you are, Pez.
Right, I told you not to expand on it. Let's just stop.
Well, I think I've cleared the air.
This is turning into some weird kinky sex pod.
Yeah.
This.
It's not even me lowering the tone. I feel completely vindicated in saying it wasn't always me now.
Right, before James just spontaneously combusts on the pod, I'm going to move
pure friction, mate. That's what it's going to be.
For God's sake, man. You're meant to be the granddad. You're meant to be the one who's censoring this shit.
Right.
I am, mate.
Right, I'm moving on. Your leadership, James, is under question now. I'm taking over.
Oh, is it?
I'm going to move on to Kobe Bryant, because even though I think there was a play what he gave up down the centre, I said it on the last pod, something that I've noticed with him is he, with experience, and like I said, I get the feeling of him that he's a confident, nervous, anxious kind of guy. He did the Pickens thing, but then after that, he made plays, learned, adapted. He did the Judy thing. After that, he made plays and back to back, like sack, like heavy sack, and then punching peanut button the ball, peanut button, peanut button, yeah,
Peanut
button.
punching.
Fuck it,
Yeah.
peanut button the ball out.
Peanut punching the
like,
ball
Oh,
out.
He
God.
just like he just learns, adapts, and gets better and stronger. Now, I had a thought in my head. I was like, why is he not on the outside? I said to you guys, because I watched the highlights back, because I was out when the game was on. And I said, has Kobe been on the outside yet? Because Michael Jackson winding me up. He brings a nice aggressiveness into tackling. If he's not getting flagged constantly, I think it's 3 games in a row he's had a flag for pass interference.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. I don't care what anyone says. That negates any positive in my eyes. He's draping over. He's getting done constantly and draping all over guys. He's not good enough, and I think they know he's not good enough. But there is no one else to replace him. So I've been screaming. I've been like, I want to see Kobe outside. He's not a slot receiver. He's not a slot corner. He isn't one. He's an outside corner. And I was like, why the F are they not doing this? To then listen to the man-to-man, Mike Dugar actually explained it, because someone asked the question in his pod, and he said, you move Kobe to the outside, then they've got no slot corner, because they've got Justin Coleman, who's not back yet. But then Justin Coleman comes back, then you move him on the outside, you've got no backup to the slot. He said, even though Kobe should, like Kobe, in my opinion, should be on the outside. He's made 2 decent plays. He's been looking a lot better. Good tackler over these last 2 games. He needs to be moved on the outside. I'm just so worried that Pete, because he did that corner blitz and punched the ball out, that's enough for Pete to say he's going to stay in the slot, and it's going to suffocate his growth and talent, like he's done with many players before. Not like he's not a culprit of doing that. Whereas I just think now he's got his confidence up. You can see it in his play. Get him on the outside. Let's see what he can do. Surely Michael Jackson, if he can transition to slot, why can't Michael Jackson just rotate, go into the slot? When Trey Brown comes back, the smaller, stockier, aggressive tackling guy, surely he could help in the slot to help that safeties pairing out. Solidify 3-way across the middle. Get Kobe on the outside. Like, it's kind of frustrating, but then with what Mike Dugar said, it kind of makes sense. So I can kind of like get my annoyance down a notch by being like, from that point of view, I totally get it. Like they just don't have, but then it highlights again, how thin are we? How thin are we? I understand Artie Burns went out and he looked good in training camp. Trey Brown apparently was meant to be back. He's not back yet. Sidney Jones is like up and down. He's kind of like fallen off a cliff compared to where he finished last year. And it's like, it's scary how thin we are.
It's going to be Trey Brown coming back, I think, healthy. Then potentially you maybe make a change, maybe with Kobe. With what you're saying there, Pez, potentially that could affect that. But at this point, yeah, we're incredibly thin at certain positions. And before sorry,
just on the defense, I wanted to put something to you guys. A thought I've had on this defense and why it's doing as bad as it's doing. So obviously Pete's the defensive guru. The way this defense is shaped up over the last 4 years, he deserves his job questioning just on that alone. It's a repeat. Don't matter who you put in place. Don't matter who you bring in. It's the same things we're seeing. Same things. So that side note there, Pete should really be in question for what the fuck is happening with this defense. But then I looked at it and I thought, to get off the Pete bashing train, from the coaching element, you've got Pete Carroll, who we all know now loves it his way, who then, whether he did it or he didn't do it, Sean Desai came in, who's a defensive-minded guy, who's his assistant head coach. Then he brought in Cole Scott, who's a defensive coach. Are we seeing a mix of three strong-minded, defensive-minded coaches who all want their opinions and their ideas put onto the field, all mixing? So Carl Scott and Desai are like, I'd really like to see this, I'd really like to see that, I'd really like to see this. Giving it to Pete, and Pete's gone, yeah, but I want to do it my way. And he's kind of like made a shit show of the plan. And that's the product we're seeing on the field. Because sometimes in that Niners game and that Falcons game, it literally looked like the defense had no assignment and they were just all free balling it. They were a bit like, for any UK listeners or anyone who watches our football, is a bit like Leeds United when Marco Bielsa was in charge, when no one had a set position, they all just ran around the pitch constantly all game.
It's like conflicting ideologies, isn't it? So it's like, I want to play this way. Well, I run this group and I want to play it that way. And I run this group, so I want to play it this way. And unfortunately, the way they play doesn't blend. It's just kind of like, if it was that play in a different defensive scheme, might be exceptional. But in this scheme, it's like there's no overlapping coverage. There's no synchronicity. It's just it doesn't work. There needs to be, and I've said this before. I think Pete has loosened the reins quite a bit, but I think the issue comes in mainly Sean Desai as he assistant head coach or whatever he is, having his defensive philosophy, and then Clint Hurt being a first-time DC. One of those two has to have the ascendancy. One of those two has to sit above the other. Now, at the moment, if it's a power struggle, Pete needs to step in and go, Clint, you're the DC, but the philosophy belongs to Desai. So if Desai says, this is what I want, you go and implement it. Or if it goes the other way, and then Pete goes, Sean, Clint is the DC. It's his defense. He will say how it is to be run. We've already moved to a 3-4. Fine. If he tells you he wants his cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers to work a certain way, then that has to be incorporated into it. At the moment, I don't see that. I see behind that veil, there's probably a bit of a power struggle and a bit of, this is how I want to do this. I do it this way. This is how we do this. I'll train these guys this way. You do yours that way. And then we'll make it all work together. And it's just not working.
How I see it is it's out of your two options, it's option 2 for me. Because let's face it, Clint Hurt is a Pete guy. So if it became a thing like that, he's always going to let Clint do it, because Clint literally, he's just another Ken Norton. He's just, in my opinion anyway, he's just another Ken Norton. He's literally just the body for Pete Carroll.
Is he a Pete guy though? Because he was brought in from, was he the Bears beforehand? Now Ken Norton's worked with Pete for years, but he is the epitome of a Pete guy. But Clint Hurt was brought in as the D-line coach from Chicago, and he's worked his way up there. Like, I don't imagine, having listened to enough interviews with Clint Hurt, because I find the guy fascinating. The guy's an absolute beast. He's a unit. He's not the type of guy you want to mess with, but he's also got that nice airy side to him where he's really approachable. Like, don't get me wrong, would not fuck with him, but would happily go for a beer with him because he seems really nice. Like, I think it's a matter of, he's won Pete over with his defensive philosophy by saying, let's move from 4-3 to 3-4. 3-4 with a lot of 4-3 and some better fronts, fine. But I think it's more with him having that. But Sean Desai has been brought in, and this is what I believe and what everyone else has been saying. Sean Desai has been brought in with this grandiose title because he is the head coach in waiting. If anything, it'll be a matter of Clint Hurt will do what he wants, but has to consult with Desai. Desai will then consult with Pete. That, I think, is the chain of command there. Because at the end of the day, when Pete goes, if they brought Desai in to take over from him, he then moves to the top of the tree. Because let's face it, Waldron's off doing his own thing and it's successful. But at the moment, Clint is desperately trying to piece this together with Desai there saying, like, this is how it should be run. This is how we want it to be run. And they run these things together, supposedly working in a tandem, but it's definitely not. I think the level is sort of Clint a bit below him, because at some point it's going to be Clint, DC, Desai, head coach. That's how I view it anyway. I'd love it to be the way around, because I think Clint deserves more power because he's earned it. But I genuinely think that's how it's worked.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and it's one to keep an eye on, certainly over the next couple of weeks and the rest of the season. Before we finish with positive Pez, Josh, do you want to have a quick shout out to some of our sponsors?
Before I do that, can we just mention that DK Metcalf got carted off the field to have a poop?
Yeah, don't ever do that again.
Like, he's saying that he had no intention of being carted off. They brought the cart on for him. If that's how you're going to go for a poo, fair play. You know, if someone drove me to the toilet every time, I wouldn't complain. I personally think he sharted and needed the cart, but that's pure speculation. DK, don't put me down on social media.
Personally, I've never needed to use the loo that bad it's been added to an injury report. You know what I mean? That must have been a monster.
That must have been an absolute snake.
Yeah.
Like, it must have destroyed the porcelain there. But if he came back out and he was like 5 pounds lighter, I ain't gonna whinge.
Hey, 149 yards, but that must have been part of it.
It worked. You know, I'd love to see what his yardage was before the poop and after.
Yes.
I'm gonna research it, and then I'm gonna put it on Insta and Twitter just so people can see. But yeah, just a quick shout out to our sponsors. So there's 2 now. You know, we have Fanatics. So for anyone who doesn't know, we've partnered up with Fanatics. We will be telling you all about their latest offers and discount codes on both their international, so European, and their US site. Currently on the international site, so you can use this as fanatics.co.uk. They have got up to 65% off if you use the code KICKOFF. That's KICKOFF. And on the US site, they've got up to 65% off if you use the code Apple, APPLE. Obviously, exclusions do apply. Things like the new salute to service, they're not going to give you a discount on that because it's brand new and it looks gorgeous. So yeah, there's that. And also, thank you for our longest standing supporter and sponsor, Blessed CBD. Blessed CBD offering full and broad spectrum CBDs to people throughout the world. So they do the US, Europe, the UK. They are a UK-based family-run company. They offer tinctures, they offer capsules, they offer lotions, they offer anything that you could possibly need. Fantastic FAQ section. All you need to do to help support the pod, if you want to blessedcbd.co.uk, when you've selected what you want, by all means, feel free to tweet us and ask us any questions. We'll be happy to answer. If you come to us and ask for me, I'll happily guide you through my journey with it. But if you go there, you go to blessedcbd.co.uk, select what you want, and then use code SEAHAWK, that's SEAHAWK at checkout. You will get 10% off.
Go and do it, and a massive thank you to everyone who has already helped out the podcast through our sponsorship. So, right, positive Pez. Pez. What are you positive about this week? Come on then, Pez. Come on then, positive Pez.
In there, nice. And
We're gonna keep on the overly positive train, and I'm gonna say that. Do we know if Jameis Winston's back yet or not?
I believe he is, but don't quote me on that.
Because my fear, I need Jameis Winston back.
Why? So Tariq Woolen can get at least one more interception.
Oh, how do you know? So if Jameis Winston is back in this game, he's loves throwing it around the field. Well-known fact about Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
So I'm going to predict that Tariq Woolen is going to be up against Chris Olave a lot, the deep threat. He's going to match him across the field, speed for speed, 2 interceptions. Don't know what he'll do with them. I was thinking I've got to make this James friendly so he doesn't kibosh my whole segment.
Please, for the love of God, anyone listening on Spotify, just go and watch it on YouTube.
No, please don't. Well, do, yeah, but not that bit.
If James starts throwing deep bombs, I think Tariq Woolen's going to get himself 2 interceptions in this game.
Oh,
I'm gonna go positive on the defense because obviously they've been
Because it can't be
battered.
worse than it was last week.
I think they're gonna. It's not gonna be perfect, but they're gonna be a lot tighter. They're gonna be a lot more switched on in this game. Realize the change in danger in the team. Get things tightened up a little bit, and then on offense, I'm gonna stick with these running backs, and I'm gonna say that Rashard Penny is gonna go for between 80 and 110 yards.
okay.
Do you know why he's going to go for that?
No.
Because they're going to get de-escourage him more.
Ooh.
It's going to be a stuttering offense to start with. And what we've been saying, because they listen to our podcast,
Yeah, obviously.
de-escourage is going to become the speed threat.
I like it.
Around the edge.
It's going to become a speed threat. And Penny's going to go off. And I'm going to hold off on my Ken Walker breakout.
Good lad. Good lad. You just
It's
keep
coming,
that.
though. It's
No,
coming.
It's coming. Right.
I've got a special game for that one.
Okay. I'm waiting with anticipation. Quick fire score predictions then to end the pod for the Saints this week. What do you
Oh,
think?
God, we were miles off last time.
Yes, we were.
Pez, you go first, or James, you go first. I'm
Right.
going to try some maths.
So I'm gonna say I'm still in positive Pez mode, so I'm saying win straight away. But I think it's gonna be the same as last year. It's gonna be a lot more cagey affair. But do you know what? I'm actually gonna say we're gonna win this game.
Okay.
Do you know why? Because last year the teams are pretty much the same. But they've got Chris Olave. We've got Tariq. Well, we've got Tariq.
And they've now got the honey badger as their safety.
What's
Not
he
as
really?
good as he used to be.
What's he done this year?
Yeah, Wash.
He picked the ball off. Did he ever pick the last game? But touch wood.
So what's your score prediction then, Pez?
No.
What's the score line?
It's going to be tight again. But the thing what sways me with it is my positive Pez with the D tightening up just enough, and Geno. Compare Geno against the Saints last year to this year. What we said last year was he didn't have enough to get him over the line, but I think this year he's going to have enough just to creep him over the line. And I think it's going to be a cagey affair, and I think it's going to be like a 2017 game, if you can get that score.
Okay, 2017 for Pez. Josh, what are you thinking?
Either way, even though obviously bias Seahawks, either way, I think that's the score. It's just going to be within 3.
Okay.
One score game.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Josh?
21-27 to New Orleans.
Okay.
I reckon it's going to be 1 passing TD apiece and 2 running TDs apiece. 1 field goal for us and 2 field goals for them.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking along the same lines as Pez. And
scrap that. Sorry. 24-27 with the 1 field goal for us.
Oh no, you've nicked that's exactly what mine was.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. And I've written
Oh.
down what I thought people were going to score, and I literally, as I said it, I was like, yeah, 21-27, and then I read it again and went, where's that field goal coming in? It's 24, yeah, 24.
Right. Well, I was going to say 24-27 Seahawks as well. So I'm going to stick with it, and me and Josh are on the same wavelength then, so I'm happy with that. We'll go down on that ship together inevitably. But thank you all, as always, for listening and tuning into the We Talk Seahawks podcast in association with the Full 10 Yards Network. Please do head over to our social media accounts and follow us on there. Just search We Talk Seahawks across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that. We will be on there and waiting for you. And yeah, man, let's hopefully look forward to going 3-2 this weekend.
Everyone needs to remember the whole NFC West 2-2.
It is. Wide open.
So as long as we keep on scraping, as long as the Rams keep playing shite and the Cardinals, Kyler Murray,
keep coddling.
But no, thank you all very much for listening, and go Hawks, man.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.